trends in B2B client relationships and trust building. B2B trust has changed, and your relationship strategy has to change with it. If it feels harder to earn trust in B2B than it used to, you're reading the room correctly. Buyers are more skeptical, more self-directed, and far less dependent on a sales rep to understand their options. That means trust is being formed earlier, faster, and often without you in the conversation. In many categories, buyers complete roughly 70% of the purchasing process through independent research before they ever engage a seller. At the same time, 61% of B2B buyers say they prefer an overall rep-free buying experience, which shifts your role from information source to risk-reducing guide when you finally do connect. The challenge is real. Research summarized by CustomerThink, citing HubSpot, suggests only about 3% of buyers fully trust sales reps. The opportunity is also real. Teams that treat trust as a designed system, not a personality trait, win more meetings, keep more accounts, and create compounding referrals and expansions. Digital-first buying means trust is built before an SDR ever reaches out. When buyers do most of the work up front, they don't want a rep to teach them the basics. They want someone who can validate what they've learned, add context they can't find on Google, and help them make a safe decision. This is where many sales motions break. They sound like they're starting at step 1, while the buyer is already on step 7. Practically, this changes how SDRs, AEs, and even an outsourced sales team should approach outreach. Instead of opening with a product pitch, we want to open with a clear point of view, a relevant trigger, or a benchmark, then ask a smart question that proves we understand the buyer's environment. That's true whether you're running an internal team or working with a sales development agency. It also raises the bar for consistency across touchpoints, website messaging, cold email agency sequences, decks, demos, and customer success all need to tell the same story. If your positioning shifts depending on who's talking, buyers interpret that as operational risk, not personalization. Trust has consolidated around peers, coworkers, and existing vendors. In today's buying environment, the most trusted voices are usually inside the buyer's own walls or already in their vendor ecosystem. Forrester reports that 82% of B2B buyers trust coworkers and management as information sources, and 79% trust vendors they already work with. If you're trying to displace an incumbent, you're not just competing on features, you're competing against familiarity and perceived safety. Corporate Visions has reported that 84% of buyers ultimately choose a vendor they have worked with before. That creates a structural advantage for incumbents, and it changes what good outbound looks like for everyone else. Your job is to reduce switching anxiety, not to hype novelty. This is why the best B2B client relationships aren't built only by selling well. They're built by operational follow-through that generates proof. When your current customers become vocal references, reviewers, and internal champions, you stop relying purely on cold starts and you start building a trust flywheel that makes every future deal easier. Outreach quality now matters more than outreach volume. There's a common misconception that more activity will eventually overcome skepticism. In reality, bad outbound creates brand damage that compounds over time, especially when it's irrelevant, generic, or clearly automated. Research tied to Sixth Sense's buyer experience findings shows 73% of buyers actively avoid suppliers that send irrelevant outreach, which turns a short-term pipeline tactic into a long-term trust problem. The fix isn't complicated, but it does require discipline. Narrow the ICP, clean the data, and give reps fewer accounts so they can do real research. Whether you're running cold calling services in-house or partnering with a cold calling agency, Your sequences should assume the buyer already knows the category and is scanning for signal. Relevance first, insight second, proof third, and only then a low-friction ask. One mistake we see often is treating outbound like a numbers game and blasting massive lists because it feels productive. The better approach is to run smaller, higher intent account sets and build multi-touch familiarity over time with consistent messaging, especially if you're investing in sales outsourcing or an outbound sales agency where brand protection matters as much as meeting volume. Trust isn't a soft skill you hope for at the end of a deal. It's a pipeline asset you build, measure, and protect in every touch point. Consensus buying requires multi-threaded trust, not single-threaded charm. Deals increasingly live or die on internal alignment, not just product-market fit. Buying groups average around 11 stakeholders, and decisions can take over 11 months in some environments. When that many people are involved, the person who likes you isn't necessarily the person who can approve you. Single threading through one friendly contact is a high-risk strategy because internal politics, role changes, shifting priorities, or budget pressure can stall everything. The trust-building move is to multi-thread early and politely. Map economic buyers, technical evaluators, operations owners, and security/finance stakeholders. Then earn credibility with each audience using their language and success criteria. A practical way to do this is to create an internal champion kit your contact can forward. We recommend a short, executive-friendly summary of outcomes, one page on implementation and risk, and a simple comparison narrative that sets expectations honestly, so your champion isn't forced to resell your solution from memory in a meeting you'll never attend. AI can increase trust or destroy it depending on transparency. AI is now embedded in how teams research accounts, draft messages, score intent, and personalize outbound. Buyers aren't necessarily opposed to that, but they are sensitive to anything that feels sneaky, intrusive, or overly automated. Salesforce research shows 61% of customers say advances in AI make it even more important for companies to be trustworthy, so your AI posture is now part of your credibility. The best use of AI is to deepen empathy, not inflate volume. Use it to surface relevant triggers, craft a sharper point of view, and tailor your language to the persona. Then require a human sanity check before anything goes out. The moment your outreach reads like a generic template, you confirm the buyer's fear that they're just another row in a spreadsheet. Set simple guardrails your SDR agency or internal team can follow consistently. What data is fair game, how it should be referenced, and how reps should answer, "How did you personalize this?" When a cold calling team can explain that they used public signals and a few specific business assumptions, the interaction feels respectful instead of creepy. Make trust measurable and make your messaging consistent. Trust becomes easier to build when it's operationalized. If your dashboard only rewards activity, dials, emails, steps completed, you will inevitably train behavior that optimizes for volume over credibility. If you also measure trust-leading indicators like referral-sourced pipeline, repeat meeting rates, and expansion opportunities, your team starts acting like long-term partners. Consistency is the multiplier here. Buyers notice when your website, SDR emails, AE narrative, and customer success motion tell different stories, and inconsistency is interpreted as delivery risk. A quarterly message audit across marketing, outbound, and account teams is one of the highest leverage changes you can make, especially if you're scaling B2B cold calling services and cold email at the same time. When we treat trust as a managed asset, coaching changes immediately. Reps stop trying to win the first email and start trying to earn the next conversation, which is the behavior pattern that produces durable pipeline and healthier B2B client relationships. How to build a trust-first outbound motion this quarter. Start with a trust-focused account map for your top accounts, existing relationships, partner overlap, relevant customer references, and any internal advocates. This is the quickest way to reduce cold starts and increase warm pathways, whether you're a B2B sales agency building pipeline for clients or a revenue team evaluating sales outsourcing to scale faster. Next, redesign sequences around a simple trust arc that forces relevance and proof into every touch. Clear why you, why now. One insight that actually helps, one piece of social proof, and a low-friction ask. That structure works across channels, email, phone, and LinkedIn. And it's how a cold calling agency can run outreach that feels thoughtful instead of spammy. At SalesHive, this is the operating principle behind how we run outbound. Protect the brand, earn the meeting, and build relationships that can expand. Since 2016, we've booked 100,000 plus meetings for 1,500 plus B2B clients by treating trust as the system, supported by high-quality list building, research-driven calls, and personalization that we can explain and defend.